Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here taking a look at the DRF Thursday race of the day, which goes as race 9 up at the Spa. It is the John Morrissey Stakes going the 7 furlong distance for the older New York breds. And Mike, we've got some horses with graded stakes credentials dropping in this race, including the number 9, What You Talking About, coming off a grade 3 victory last time out. The Wine Steward, a horse that's run competitively in graded stakes in the past. Bank Frenzy, who's won a ton of New York bred races over the past year. It's a really good field, and despite the presence of those formidable favorites, it's drew 13 runners.
Yeah, nice big field here, really competitive one, too. We already looked at the Philly Mare counterpart to this kicking off Whitney week here at Saratoga, David. These two New York bred stakes races drew great fields. The favorites are, rock solid, but these are really interesting betting races.
Let's go to the Timeform US pace projector for this John Morrissey, because I think the pace setup is going to be key to the chances of a few of these horses, because there is plenty of speed in here, Mike, but it's sort of hard to read exactly who's going to be in the front early. The number 9, What You're Talking About, the morning line favorite, is a horse that has plenty of early speed. He has been content to sit just off the pace in a few of his prior victories, including when he earned his career best Beyer speed figure 2 back. So I wonder how aggressive they're going to be in this race. But beyond him, it's hard to know exactly who's going to be in front. The number 4, Caldo Candy, does have plenty of speed, isn't always the best gate horse. The 13, Lightman, can go forward, but another one that doesn't necessarily need the lead.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of the speed horses in this race are super tactical. So it doesn't feel like if they don't make the lead, it's going to be a big issue for them. I was more, out of all the horses, David, that I feel like are going to go forward here, I think I was most worried about What You're Talking About here if he doesn't make the lead. And as you point out, he's run okay without the lead before, but I think in a race like this one, I really don't feel like they want to let him get too far behind. I think they want him to be up there. I just sort of feel like they'd get aggressive in this race.
Yeah, it's interesting. I get why that fast pace flag is showing up, because there's a large field. There's a lot of tactical speed in the race. I wonder if a couple jockeys aren't so aggressive, if this isn't a pace that's supersonic, and maybe some horses get shuffled further back than they really want to in the early stages of this race. With this being the DRF race of the day for Thursday, you do note you can get free past performances for this race and every single race of the day. Just log in at DRF.com or create a free account if you don't have one yet, and you can access free classic formulator and Timeform US PPs for every single race of the day. Let's go through this field, beginning with the number 1, Dr. Kraft. And Mike, this is a horse that won going the 9 furlong distance against Allowance Optional Claiming Company last time out. I thought handicapping that race that the mile and an eighth was going to be a stretch for him, but he got the job done for some connections that have definitely gotten the best out of him recently. I don't mind him turning back to the 7 furlongs. I just wonder if he can actually produce a victory at this level.
Yeah, I agree. Never really felt like he was a stakes quality horse. He's always been a pretty good New York bred. And I, like you, David, I really was kind of surprised that he was able to win going 9 furlongs last time, because I've never viewed him as a horse who wanted more distance. But listen, these connections are really, really good. This trainer does a great job. He's claimed this horse. He's improved him. And now he gets to cut him back off of a win.
It's pretty hard to dock the number 2, Bank Frenzy, a horse that's won 5 of his last 6 starts, including multiple New York bred stakes across those races. His only loss during that time was the grade 3 Westchester, who is facing some really good open company rivals. We'll take a look at the most recent of his victories when he dropped back in against state breds in the Commentator and stretched him out to 9 furlongs here, Mike. He's a versatile horse that is just as good going this distance as he is the 1-turn mile. I think the big question for Bank Frenzy in this race is something that I was alluding to earlier, talking about the pace projector, because it's a 7 furlong field with a lot of horses that want to get forward. He's one that probably is going to find himself in the back half of the field early, and being a horse that has run some of his better races when he can be a little bit more forwardly placed than that, and being a horse that kind of wears that extension blinker and wants to get out sometimes, I wonder what kind of trip he's going to pull in here.
Yeah, I think it's valid to be concerned about that too. I mean, when I look at the race initially too, David, I mean, I know he won the Commentator around 2 turns and he gets that far, but I actually like him going a little bit shorter. I'm not sure if I like him going this short.
Yeah.
We'll see, what kind of trip he can pull in there. He's really, really good, and he always shows up, and he will run from off the pace. You don't want to be too far away, but he will run from off the pace. So I don't think you have to, be way concerned about it, but the trip is going to be important for him. He's a real good horse.
The number 3, Winstock, is another horse that figures to be coming from off the pace in here, though hopefully not from as disadvantageous a start as he had last time. We'll take a look at the replay of his improbable victory in this allowance optional claimer, and that is the horse rearing up at the start that eventually wins the race. Winstock. Not too often you see horses get away so poorly and still able to achieve a victory, but that's what Winstock did here, as he just puts in this remarkable finish from the 3/8 pole home. He just launched into a different gear. And Mike, I was looking up the raw fractions of this race and saw them posted on the screen when it was happening live, running his final eighth of a mile in 11 3/5 seconds. And I kind of didn't believe it. Went back to time it with a stopwatch. It was accurate. This horse just flew home that day. Now, this was obviously a sloppy track. He was beating basically turf horses and nothing else in this spot. So he's stepping way up here and also doing so going out for a new barn, Fernando Abreu, but a barn that does well off the claim. So he's intriguing at a big price.
I agree. Listen, as far as the step back up in class goes, I mean, it's not like he isn't a prior graded stakes winner, so he's got the credentials to handle a step up in class here. I'm with you. I mean, this horse was super impressive last time, and one of those horses that you sort of make note of and want to know where he turns up next. I don't know if I love that this is the spot they turn up next with him here, but listen, as well as he ran last time, I did not totally dismiss this horse.
The number 4, Caldo Candy, feels like one of the harder ones to make in here, Mike. I picked him at 30-1 on the morning line. He's just kind of been stuck at that New York bred allowance level for a long time. Finally got a victory last time, kind of with an unusual trip for him. Joel Rosario, a jockey who sometimes is known to break the mold with horses, took him much farther back than you were expecting, and it happened to work out. He came up the inside to victory, but he'd have to run a lot faster, regardless of running style, to beat a field like this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they really don't have that many options anymore, David. He's out of New York bred allowance conditions now, so you take a shot in stakes races, see if you can be competitive, and if you can't, you're going to have to find somewhere else to run this horse.
Mike, I'm wondering where you stand on the number 5, the Wine Steward, at this point in his career, because he was a pretty talented dirt sprinter early in his career. He won the first 3 races, all going sprint distance, has actually beat What You're Talking About in that funny side up here 2 summers ago. But since then, he's kind of been a little up and down. He had some, brief flashes of brilliance during his 3-year-old campaign, kind of ended on a sour note in the Belmont Stakes. And while he won his first start off the layoff this season, I didn't love the field that he beat. And to me, he's been pretty disappointing in his last couple of starts.
I agree. I mean, this is the horse. He's a lot like Maker's got his sort of Philly counterpart in the Johnstone on Wednesday in My Main Squeeze, who it felt was really good. Felt like maybe could get off to another good start this year. This horse won a stakes race in his seasonal debut, and you were sort of hoping maybe he could sort of get back on track. And it just hasn't happened for him in his last 2 starts. I understand why they're stepping back in class here. I won't be surprised when it works. I still don't think I want to bet this horse unless he's some kind of big price.
The number 6, Ciccio Bello, is a horse that's coming off a stakes victory against New York breds at this exact distance, 7 furlongs. The problem is it came all the way back at the end of 2024, and he hasn't been seen in over half a year since then. But Mike, going back to watch this race again, I kind of was kicking myself because I forget who you liked in this race, but I remember watching this result and thinking, Ciccio Bello was a horse you could have made a case for 20-1 this day. He'd had some trips on occasion, and turning back in distance felt like it could have worked for him. It worked out that way. He gets the victory over a very game general banker on this occasion. That said, he is a horse that's kind of topped out at buyers in the high 80s in the past, and he might need better than that to win a race like this off the layoff.
Yeah, they're returning from a layoff here in a really tough spot. I think it's also only fair to point out that when he won that race that we just watched there, it's a very opportunistic win. I mean, he sat way back off the pace there. They were dueling a fast pace in front of him, and he just came running late and picked up some tight horses. That's not to say he hasn't run, some other races that are pretty good too. But they're coming back in a really, really tough spot here, David. It's another horse in here. He's pretty good. I don't want to bet him against this field.
The number 7, Shadow Dragon, another long shot that's kind of similar to Caldo Candy, who already talked about, a horse that was stuck at that second level New York bred allowance condition for a while, eventually broke through, and he's won 2 of his last 4 starts, but still, Mike, even his recent performances don't really want to make me bet him here.
Yeah, don't like this horse stepping up into a really, really tough stakes race.
The number 8 Jackson Heights has experienced a renaissance of sorts over his last couple of starts since getting into the Ilkay Cantor Machu Bard. A confidence boost dropping into the $25,000 claiming level two back did the trick as he made a big move from way back to get the job done, going 6 furlongs, a distance that you would have thought was way too short for him based on his prior form. And he's won now 2 in a row, launching runs from way back over sprint distances. But Mike, he got very fast paces to close into both times, and he's now just stepping up way in class.
Yeah, he's had 2 really good closers trips in those last 2 wins, and he's taken advantage. Good for him. The pace projector that we looked at, I guess he's hoping that that's correct. He wants this pace to get fast and contested so he can just sort of sit back and make one run.
Number 9, what you're talking about, simply the horse to beat in this race. I pegged him as the 2-1 morning line favorite. We'll take a look at his most recent victory in the John A. Nehrude, where he earned a grade 3 victory. And Mike, I understand why Wesley Ward jumped him right up into a graded stakes off that New York bred second level allowance win 2-back, because he ran a 106 buyer that day. And that was a number that was competitive with some graded stakes winners in the sprint division through the early part of the season. And he didn't earn another 106, but he did show some great battling on between a couple of talented in-form horses this day to get the job done. He's spent some time on the sideline since then. I never like to worry about that too much for Wesley Ward because he does like to give his horses a lot of time between races. And his best effort is obviously going to make him a handful in here.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, he was so good 2 starts back in particular that, it's obvious that if he runs that race, he's going to be tough in here. I know he got a grade 3 win last time Open Company. He was very game in there. It's not a effort that thrills me necessarily, David. Again, I know it was a grade 3. Didn't love the field that he took down in there. I can't say I was thrilled with the way that he did it either. We'll see. I know that he could win. If he's the favorite, I'll probably bet somebody else.
The number 10, Quick to Accuse, another horse that's kind of tough to build a case for at this point. He ran a big race at his final start for the Brad Cox barn back in March, but he's just taken successive steps backwards in each race since the claim since then, Mike, and this just feels like it's too tough a spot at this point.
Yeah, I just don't want to bet him in a stakes race, especially one that came up this tough. I mean, if you wanted to say he's a little dirtied up because he's caught 3 wet tracks recently, he doesn't seem like he's nearly as good over wet tracks. That's fine, because that's how I look at him too, but I don't like him in this spot.
The number 11, Sheriff Bianco, has been good for a long time since getting claimed by Linda Rice. He's won a number of stakes. He often picks up pieces in stakes races at this level. It seems like in 2025, Mike, he's tailed off a little bit. He's not hitting the board with the frequency that he once did, and his last couple of efforts have been a little bit disappointing, though I will say the paces didn't really work out either time. So he's got a race in him that could definitely maybe round out a trifecta in this race, but he's a little tough to make on the win end.
Yeah, exactly. I love Sheriff Bianco. He's a really, really cool horse, and he shows up and he runs every single time. I could try to get him in there underneath because he's going to be a fair price in here. It's not like he's, it's totally impossible for him to get a piece of this. I wouldn't use him on top, but I would use him underneath.
I think the 2 horses drawn in the widest post positions both merit some discussion in this race. The number 12, Doc Sullivan, is a horse that got pretty good last summer. He actually won the Mike Lee going this distance last June during his 3-year-old season. They tried a variety of distances after that, even the Grade 1 Pennsylvania Derby. That didn't work out. He got back in against Stake Bred Company this winter, and he lost to some rivals that he's meeting again here, but he ran pretty well in a number of those races, including a narrow loss to Bank Frenzy, who we agree upon is one of the major players in this race. Mike, trips are difficult for this horse because he wants to lug in. He hangs on his left lead. He sometimes shuffles himself out of position on the turns. They're making a change for this race, switching him into the barn of John Ortiz, who has had success at Saratoga in recent seasons.
Yeah, the trainer change is interesting here. We'll see. You're so right about how difficult this horse is to ride, though. Trips are very important for him. And he also, will get a change to Joel Rosario here. We'll see what he does. This horse is good, man. He was a really good 3-year-old. The Mike Lee was a good performance, wet track or not. He ran really well in there. And then he just acquitted himself well in some longer races against some real tough horses too. I loved his effort against Bank Frenzy 3 starts back. They just got really aggressive, sent this horse on a fast pace. He still almost won. We'll see. I was a little disappointed in his last 2 starts, David, but if he can bounce back, he fits really, really well with these horses, and he's going to be a price.
Yeah, he's got a lot more speed than his form might look at first glance. And Rosario is the kind of jockey that can kind of switch things up and maybe send a horse when it doesn't look like they will on paper. The number 13, Light Man, rounds out this field, Mike. And I just respect this horse's consistency. I mean, he shows up every time. He almost always hits the board. It feels like he raises his game to compete at the level at which he's entered. Really, his only poor effort was in that New York Stallion Series stakes at the end of last year when we talked about it for Chicho Bello. He's the one that took advantage of the fast pace that day. Well, Lightman was the one that was taken out of his best running style to contest the pace that ultimately fell apart. They came off the layoff last time. He found himself chasing one of those rare good performances from Baby Yoda. He was never going to beat that rival, but why can't that be a good starting point for a horse that has improved through racing in the past?
I think it can be, especially when, just going back and watching that race, David, he sort of, sent forward in that race, but they were content to let Baby Yoda have the lead. And you could just see this horse. He did some chasing, got a little tired at the end of the race, just like it was a perfect prep race for him. His good race, I think, makes him really, really dangerous in here. He's got the right running style, too. I mean, post 13, I guess, is no bargain. I don't know how wide you want to be, especially if a bunch of horses are going inside of you. So we'll see what kind of trip he can get. But this horse is handy. He's tactical. He's underrated. I'm definitely using this horse.
Let's go to picks for this very interesting edition of the John Morrissey on Thursday. And Mike, I see you're going to go with that horse, making the trainer switch to John Ortiz, Doc Sullivan.
Yeah, I want to give this horse a chance to get back to one of his good races here, because I think his good race gives him a real chance. And here, the trip will be very important, but I think the price is going to compensate for it, David. I think this horse is going to be a fair price.
Yeah, you're a little more against the morning line favorite, what you're talking about, than I am. I got him in the mix. We both have Bank Frenzy in there. I put the number 13 Lightman on top, as I was alluding to. This just is a horse that shows up every time. I think he can take a step forward second off the layoff. And both of our picks, Mike, drawn wide, kind of a murky pace situation. I'm hoping they both get somewhat aggressive rides and are able to stay out of the kickback in the clear most of the way. 13, 12, 9, 2 for me, and 12, 2, 5, 13 for Mike in the DRF Thursday race of the day, the John Morrissey at Saratoga. Good luck if you're playing the races later this week.